Okay, so the plan for today is we read this halacha yesterday just to get the facts, and we noticed that the Rambam basically quotes a ton of Pirkei Avos. Okay, and the Rambam wrote a commentary on Pirkei Avos. So what we're going to try to do is understand what he means here, but also consult his commentary on Pirkei Avos wherever he comments. I made a PDF of it, and for some reason it didn't save, and so we'll have to find them all again. So whatever. I like to look up all the sources ahead of time, but whatever. All right, so yeah, we're gonna do the halachas again. Yeah, okay. So this is in Hilchos Talmud Torah Perek Gimel Halacha Vav. Mi shenasa'o libo l'kayim mitzvazo karoi la. Someone whose heart lifts him to fulfill this mitzvah as is appropriate to it, meaning as is appropriate to the mitzvah or to the Torah. V'lihios muchtar b'kisras Torah, and to be crowned with the crown of Torah. Now, I didn't notice this when we read it yesterday. I feel like those are two different things. L'kayim mitzvah zo karoi la, and then lihios muchtar b'kisras Torah, meaning you could have many mitzvahs. Let's say like mitzvahs, nazir. You could be mekayim that mitzvah karoi la. But there's no concept of like a keser. Well, I guess there's a crown of a nazir. Bad choice as an example. Oh man, lulav, right? You can fill lulav karoi la, but there's no keser shel abraminim, So like those are two separate things. And I think yesterday I treated them all as like one. Like the keser shel Torah was the whole purpose. The keser shel Torah? No, we didn't. Yeah, we did not define that. Yeah. What we said, well, let's just look earlier at the beginning again, in the beginning of the parak. Right. So we'll just read the halachos again. Bishlosha kasarim nichtru Yisrael. See, that's the other weird thing also. He can't mean that they were. Yeah, right. He can't mean that Israel got these three. He means that within like the dominion of Israel are these three crowns, but it's not like everyone's crowned with it. Keser Torah, Keser Kuna, Keser Malchus. Keser Kuna zacha bo Aaron, shnemar v'haisa lo l'zoro achrav bris kuna salam. Keser Malchus zacha bo David, shnemar zaro lolam yehiyeh v'kiso kashemesh negdi. Keser Torah harehu munach v'omen muchan lakol, shnemar murash kilas Yaakov. Kol mi shir to yavo v'yital. Yeah, okay, fine. So, I always feel responsible. I know we've read this like a billion times. I always feel responsible to translate it every time. So the Keser Kahuna was merited by Aaron, as it is said, it will be for him and his offspring after him as a covenant, an eternal covenant of Kahuna. The crown of kingship, David merited it, as it is said, his offspring will be forever, and his throne will be like the sun opposite me. The crown of Torah, it is resting and available and ready for everyone. As it is stated, it's an inheritance of the congregation of Jacob. Anyone who wants can come and take it. And then one more halacha, Shema Tomar, maybe you'll say Osan Haksarim Gedolim Mi Keser Torah. Maybe you'll say those crowns are greater than the crown of Torah. Hari Omer, but it says in Mishlei, Bi Melachim Yimlochu V'Rosim Yochoku Tzedek. Through me, kings reign and princes, rulers engrave righteousness. Bi Sarim Yasoru. Through me, princes reign. You learn from here that the crown of Torah is greater than the Keser Kuna and Keser Malchus. And we read someplace in the פירוש המשניות where he says exactly the same thing, but then he also adds, because through Keser Torah you get the other two. Oh, sorry, because Torah is what enables the other people to do what they do. Yeah, right. Amr Chachamim, Mamzer Talmud Chachamim, Kodem Kohen Gadol Amaretz. The Chachamim said that a bastard Talmud Chacham takes precedence over a Kohen Gadol who's an Ignoramus, or a person of the land. Shnemar says, Yikarhi mipninim, as it says, it is more precious than pearls. Yikarhi mikohen gadol shenichnas lifnai lifnim. It's more precious than the Kohen Gadol who enters into the Holy of Holies. Yeah. So we said that there's, if you look at Keser Kahuna and Keser Malchus, there are privileges and responsibilities and powers that are associated with it. Keser Torah, from the pasuk he quotes in Mishlei, it sounds like there's also powers, but it's like it enables you to do things. Weird pasuk to quote. If you're going to quote any pasuk to show, like I know he's quoting it because it associates it with the kings, but it is weird how like it doesn't shed light on anything unique to Torah. It's just saying that through me kings reign and do their king stuff, and then Rosni Michoku Tzedek. It's not like showing a thing, anything unique about Torah. And we also said, what is the significance of crown? So we thought crown was something having to do with glory in some way, like kavod, kavod hamalchus, kavod. Right. Right. Yeah. Right. That's a good proof. Right. In terms of kavod, it comes first. Yeah.
I don't know if there's more of that, but like that's not kind of like what
Right. Yeah. It's difficult. Mukhtar Bekisra Shel Torah. I just want to check and see, does it use the term Keser Shel Torah anywhere in Pirkei Avos? Oh yeah, that's where we looked it up. That is where we saw it in Pirkei Avos. Is that the only place? Yeah, that's the only place. Yeah, what were you saying? Yeah. Yeah, definitely it's weird. Right, because of the lishma thing that we saw. Yeah, right. And it is it's davka, right? It's davka shalom lishma, right? Also weird that it does use a different term for crown, right? There it says don't make it an atara lihis atar ba, right? Yeah. You want me to show you an interesting tool? I forgot if I checked this out already. Do you know what aspaklaria is? Yeah. Okay. So do you know what aspaklaria is? Not the one that Moshe Rabbeinu saw God in Nevuah, but the website. So it's a hashkafa encyclopedia. Okay. Yeah. You know what I feel like I should do, by the way? I feel like I'm uniquely poised to do this. I should give a Sunday shir just going through resources and how to do Torah research. I feel like I know a lot of stuff like that. Like even just someone's asking me about the Torah stuff, like even the Torah stuff, people don't know how to use the features,
Well, yeah, my defense on that thing.
Yeah.
I don't like any online.
Yeah. I hear. So, apparently I have looked this up recently. So you go, for example, Chaf, and then you look at Keser Shel Torah. This is also there is also a hard copy which we don't have. Keser Shel Torah, and then what it does is it takes you from the Chazal sources all the way through the Gaonim and the Rishonim with excerpts from their works and citations that are most relevant to that topic. So it is handy. This one's actually a short entry, but if you looked at other stuff, then it's handy. So I already looked at this, and there's no Rambam. Okay, fine. Oh well, wah. Okay, so we're on our own. Yeah.
We tried looking at the פירוש המשניות on the mission on that.
Yeah, we did, and the only thing he said there was that the Torah is what allows the kings to reign effectively. Yeah. No, it doesn't. Right? It sounds utilitarian. Right. Yeah. Right.
It's not saying that
right.
It's just like a side effect of it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Just out of curiosity, for kicks, I'm just gonna do a search and see. See whether the Rambam has anything about a keser in the Mishnah Torah itself. Just the word keser. Because it's weird, right? There's no halachic significance to a crown, right? It's not like it's not like in other, like even our process of making a king doesn't have anything to do with crowning. It has to do with the anointment. Yeah.
Well, at the same time, it's like is the term keser like used, but I guess in Tanakh 4 times?
Good question. I don't know.
That could be like, and then it's just you live amongst the crawling non-Jews, so you start
right. So we have Mukhtar B'Tfilin, right? But that's the only other crown that we have, right? And then we have our halachos here. Talmud Torah Mukhtar, Talmud Torah again, Keser Shel Torah, Talmud Torah again, Avodah Zarah, crown of mitzvos. Okay, but that's not the crown. Katorah, Ketarim, Toras, Keter Torah, and Isouri Biya. What's it doing there? Let's check that out. Oh, this is about, this is so weird. Okay, fine. So, Lo Yisa, actually, we're not going to look at this one right now. We're going to look at the one. We did look at Easter Biאה at one point, but I forgot where it was. Yeah, Oren?
This is not at all related to what we're doing right now. It's related
Yeah.
to yesterday and Monday's shir. But
Yeah.
I just wasn't here for them, and I just listened to the recording. So yeah, just on those, just wondering, just general question. When you kept saying how we want to do things, lishma, like purpose, without reason. Obviously, the reason for mitzvah, you kind of mentioned this. Obviously, the reason for mitzvah though is to make ourselves better. So when we say we're doing it without a reason, we are still doing it.
I never said we're doing it without a
a
reason. I never said we're doing it without a reason. Yeah.
What are we saying?
No, lishma means we defined it is lishma. There's two lishmas. There's only one lishma. There's lishma in learning, which is learning for its own sake, for the sake of the knowledge itself. And then that's what human life is. And then mitzvos are a means of facilitating that either through giving you perfection of intellect or through perfection of midos or creating a society that facilitates it. So it's to the contrary, it is for a reason, but it's for the right reason, like Chaim said, yeah.
I thought we were saying this was just a and unto itself. You don't do half.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just to exist as a human.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a problem. I mean,
Yeah. Human. Right.
Right. I always think, but I think one thing now is probably better is like.
I thought we were saying that was what we said yesterday. Say, what? Yeah. Okay. So. Okay, so I'll say that for the record, for clarity, is that the mitzvos lishma means that you're doing the mitzvos to facilitate your ability to be involved in Torah lishma, which is to live as a human being was designed to live, to become an actual human, not just a potential human seeking knowledge for its own sake. Yeah, yeah.
But when the Rambam goes on and on about how you're not supposed to do all these things for like some ulterior purpose, like honor or money or whatever.
Yeah, ulterior, right.
How if someone's like I'm putting on tefillin today, that way I become a better person. Like that's the only reason I'm putting on tefillin. How is that not the same kind of thing?
Well,
it sounds very similar at least.
So the difference is like, let's say like the Rambam when he was going through, I'll open it up again. Hold on. Rambam purpose. I don't know why all the search engines are slower when I'm on Zoom. It's weird. I thought it was an internet thing, but it's apparently my computer also. Yeah. Right. It's just, I don't know. But what I mean is it's funny how like certain things, I guess searching takes up more. Right. But it's funny how like I could be watching a YouTube video and it's not going to slow down, but like searching does. Yeah. Right. I can even be gaming like and sharing it on Zoom and like search engines are slower than the gaming. Okay, whatever. Anyway, so when he's talking about the things that are not the purpose of man, I know we just read this yesterday, but I want to read it in context to answer Oren's question. So he says, they found that man's purpose is only one activity alone. And they found that all of his other actions are only for the sake of preserving his existence so that he can perfect that one activity, which is the apprehension of concepts and knowledge of truths clearly. Because it's not possible to say that the purpose of man is to eat or drink or have sex or build a house or be king. All these are transient accidents that pass over him and don't add to his essence. So just take that. So if a person says, I'm learning Torah to get money, that's saying I'm going to be involved in the thing that makes me what I am in order to get something that is not contributing to what I am. But saying I'm going to learn Torah to better myself as a truth-seeking intellect, that is what you were created for. And same thing with tefillin. If someone says I'm putting on tefillin in order to so that I'll my dad will like pat me on the head and say good boy, So that's not what it means to be a human. But putting on tefillin so that I can be in a state of Yiras Hashem and remember Yetzias Mitzrayim to connect myself to those eternal truths, that is what it means to be a human, Like saying you're going to do something in order to be what you were created to be is lishma, you know. Okay, clear?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so where were we? We were looking at Isory Biya for some strange reason that we don't know yet. Lo Yisa Yisrael Am Arts Kohenes. I don't think we've read this. Or wait, we're in Lamed Beis. Lamed Beis, I think, right? Is that where it took us? Yeah, Lamed Beis. Yeah. Lo Yisa Adam Bas Amhart. So a person should not marry the daughter of an ignoramus, like what's his name did that we did the shir on Friday. Like Rabbi, I'm forgetting who it was. All right, yeah. Lo Yisa Adam Bas Amhart. Oh no, he didn't marry. He married his daughter off to an Amhart. All right, fine, yeah. She'im Mes Ogala Banav Ame Haaretz Yehu. Because if no, I think this is a person himself. No, he shouldn't. He should not. Oh, his daughter. Yeah, you're right. Right. Lo Yisa Adam. No. Lo Yisa Adam Bas Amharetz. He should not marry the daughter of an Amharetz. Yeah, fine. She'im Mes Ogala, because if he himself dies or is exiled, Banav Ame Haaretz Yehu, then his kids will be turned out to be Ame Haaretz, right? Because she was not raised in a home of a Talmud Chacham, so she's not going to be able to raise them with the value of Torah. Oh, he says, "She'ein iman yodas keser Torah." This is a clue, because their mom does not know the crown of Torah. So this is a very interesting thing, right? There's knowing the crown of Torah and then having the crown of Torah. Interesting. Velo yasi bitol amaretz. That's the one in your case. You shouldn't marry your daughter off to an amaretz. Shekola nosein bitol amaretz kamok shekafta v'nasna lifnei ha'ari. We'll have to take this off of YouTube, because anyone who marries his daughter off to an amaretz, it's like he imprisoned her and threw her in front of a lion. Make uboel v'ein boshes panim. He's going to hit her and have biya with her without any shame. Olam yimkor adam kol ma sheyesh lo. A person should sell everything he owns. V'yisa bas talmid chachamim, in order to marry the daughter of a talmid chachamim. She'imes ogala banav talmid chachamim, because if he dies or is exiled, his sons will be talmid chachamim. V'chein yasi bitel talmid chachamim. So too, he should marry off his daughter to a talmid chachamim. She'ein davar maguna v'lo mariva b'veiso shel talmid chachamim, because there's nothing despicable or contentious in the house of a talmid chachamim.
So it's a mitzvah to have rabbinic aristocracy.
Yeah. We're very pro aristocracy in Judaism, or let's put it this way. I mean, it's a meritocracy aristocracy, because anyone could be a Talmud Chacham, you know? Yeah. As Chef Cousteau said, everyone can cook. Anyone can cook in Ratatouille? No one? No one? Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah, you got it, okay, yeah.
And anyone can fall.
Yes. Yeah. So I said this is a clue. It's not the biggest clue, but it is a clue that the Keser Torah is something that can be seen, which makes sense because a crown is a visible symbol of kingship as well, you know? Let's see if there's... Yeah. Yeah, right. You know, it's funny because there's another place where crown mashal is used kind of in that way, not really, I guess. But when the Rambam talks about Olam Haba, he does use a different term, but he says, I'm just going to quote this in case it's relevant. I don't know if it is. Hilchos Tשובה Ches. When he's describing Olam Haba, he says, V'harin nispar l'cha she'in guf ugvia. Oh, sorry. So the Chachamim say, Kach amru Chachamim harishonim. So this is in Tשובה Ches Beis. Olam haba in bo lo achila v'lo shasiv v'lo tashmin. So there's no eating, drinking, or sexual relations in Olam Haba. Ela tzadikim yoshvin, but the tzadikim sit va'atrosehem beroshehem, and their crowns are on their heads. V'nehenim mizivach shchina, and they derive hana'a, pleasure, from the radiance of the shchina. So the Rambam says, Harin nisbar l'cha she'in sham guf. It's clear to you that there's no bodies in Olam Haba, because there's no eating and drinking. So when it says that the tzaddikim sit, that's by way of allegory, klomar, meaning to say, nafshos tzaddikim mitsuyin sham. The souls of the tzaddikim are present there, meaning they exist. V'lo ama v'lo yega, without toil or exertion. What does it mean that their crowns are on their heads? shebiglala zachu l'chayo halam haba mitsuya imahen. It means the knowledge that they knew through which they merited olam haba is found with them. V'hi ha'atara shalahen, and that is their crown. K'inyan she'amar Shlomo ba'atara she'itra lo imo. Like it says in Shlomo, like he says, with the crown that he was crowned by his mother. Barihu Omer v'simchas olam al rosham. It says the joy of the world is on their head. Ve'im simcha guf kadesh tanuach al harosh. And simcha is not a body that can rest on the head. Kach atarash amar chachamim kan hi hadea. So too, the crown that the chachamim talk about is knowledge. So I know this is a different word for crown, but unless you're the Malbim or Rav Hirsch and you say that there's such a thing as synonyms in Hebrew, then maybe it's a related mashal. The crown is the distinguishing factor. So in the mashal of olam haba, it's the thing that got you to olam haba, that made you human, and maybe in olam hazeh, it's the thing that distinguishes you as having prowess in Torah. I just saw this other thing also when I was looking through the search in Hilchos Malachim. Yeah. Oh, yeah, chat. Maybe. It says maybe we should analyze what the Bas Talmid Chacham has and why this results in the children independently becoming Talmid Chachamim. Yeah, I mean, but I feel like we
just interact with that family.
Right. I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Yosef. I don't understand that halacha, but it's saying she knows the Keser Torah. That's what she has. And that's what we're trying to figure out. So I think we are trying to investigate that. Yeah.
My father's brother was a much more familiar with, I guess, a lot of the intricacies of, I guess, prudent society and say, my mother's brother. Not my mother's brother is sooner, I think. I'm not saying that in the slightest. I'm just saying like I can tell that my father's brother is much more familiar with the intricacies of my mother's mother.
Yeah. Your choice and the choice of your family. Okay, let's look at this. Here's another reference in, I think there's a Kesser thing here. Kesser. Yeah. Kivin Nimshach David. So once David was anointed, this is in Hilchos Malachim, Aleph Zion. Zacha Kesser Malchus. Then he merited the Kesser Malchus. Okay, this might be a clue also. V'harei hamalchus lo ulevanav hazacharim haksherim adolam. See, that's a different thing also, right? So the Kesser Malchus is hereditary, right? We don't say this by Shaul. Shaul got the Malchus, but he didn't get the Kesser Malchus that lasted for generations. Yeah, so that's another clue. I don't know if the Kesser Torah is hereditary, but that's and then I think is that the last one? Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, definitely. Wait. Didn't he just say this here? Oh, sorry, that was in Tשוba. I'm on the wrong. Got too many Mishnah Torahs open. You can never have too many Mishnah Torahs open. Right. Beis Kavod Gadol Nohagin B'Melech. This is in Beis Aleph and Hilchos Malachim and Melchamos. We are knowing a great kavod with the king. Umesimin lo ema v'yira b'leiv kol adam. We instill dread and fear of him into the heart of every person. Shnemar som tasim alecha melech. You shall place a king upon yourself. Shetihe emaso alacha. That his fear should be upon you. Ein rochvin al suso ve'ein yoshvin al kiso ve'ein mishtamshin b'sharvito v'lo b'kisro. We do not ride on his horse. We do not sit on his throne. We do not utilize his scepter. And we don't, and nor his crown, nor any of his implements. And when he dies, all of them are burned before him. Yeah, so that's I don't think that's unique to crown, but it's saying like crown is a symbol of the kings to the extent that you treat it with reverence, and that's part of his kavod. Is that the last one? Oh, last one is in Hay. Which is Hamelech mistaper b'chol yom. King gets a haircut every day. Okay, very, very short haircut or a brief haircut. Umisakin atmo, and he fixes himself. I assume that means aesthetically. Umisnaya bilavushim b'fu'arin, and he makes himself beautiful with wondrous clothing. Shnemar, as it says, Melech biofio techazana einecha. The king in his beauty, your eyes shall gaze upon. V'yoshev al kisei malchus b'palterin shalo. And he sits on the throne of kingship in his palace. Umesim keser barosho, and he puts a crown on his head. And all people come to him at the time when he wants, and they stand in front of him, and they bow to the earth. Yeah, so not much reading here by way of other Kesser references, but it was worth looking through, asking what the literal Kesser Malchus is. But this is, but clearly there are two Kesser Malchus, Kesser Malchus, right? There's the physical crown of kingship, and then there's the one that he's talking about, which is then the one he was talking about in Aleph, which is the monarchy as a dynasty, unclear, which one the Kesser Shel Torah is based on, right? Like, does not seem like a dynasty, like you were saying, right? It's not passed on. It's something that you put on yourself. Okay, here's what I think we should do. I think we should figure out how you get the Kesser Shel Torah, and through doing that, we'll get a clear idea of what it is that you're getting. Okay, all right. So let's read what we said what we read yesterday. Lo yasiach da. So here's how you do it. Okay, and again, you're doing two things. You're fulfilling the mitzvah that's on the proper level, and you're becoming crowned in the crown of Torah. The other question I have here is like this. I'm gonna ask the question at the outset. Is fulfilling the mitzvah in the proper way synonymous with being crowned with the crown of Torah? Meaning, it's not synonymous, sorry. Is it simultaneous with the crown of Torah? Meaning, if you fulfill the mitzvah in the proper way, then mimela, you will be crowned with the crown of Torah? Or is it possible to do the mitzvah in the proper way and you're not zocheh to the crown of Torah? Yeah. Yeah, I see the hand raised. What was that? Right. Right.
But not right away that I have that, but I'm wondering that I think that mine not right away that I have.
Right. So I'm not asking about right away. I'm saying, like, let's say you reach. What I mean is like this: is let's say you do the mitzvah. So okay, the mitzvah of lulav. Okay, you could do karoi. You could do it properly, and the kiyum mitzvah is something that you're immediately mekayim in the mitzvah, right? There are other mitzvahs where you could do it karoi, and you don't get the kiyum mitzvah. It's not guaranteed. Let's say like puru revu, right? You do the mitzvah properly, or like you engage in the ma'aseh mitzvah properly, but the results are not really dependent, or not really up to you, So there's the way to engage the mitzvah, and then there's the kiyum mitzvah, and so the question is, with Kesser Shel Torah, is he going to be, sorry, with this halacha, is he going to be outlining a way to engage in the mitzvah? And you could have a guy who 100% engages in the mitzvah correctly and even learns lishma, but he just is not zocheh to the Kesser Shel Torah? Or no, do you say that mimela, if you are a person who is engaging in Torah properly, that means you are crowned with the crown of Torah?
Okay,
yeah. Like another analogy would be like, you can engage in Torah properly, but that doesn't mean you're going to become a navi, right? Like how far you get is going to be dependent on what your potential is, what your circumstances are, Yeah. Yeah. Oren, what was your question?
Why we seem to be investigating this thing like it's like an actual thing which you either get or that people can see or whatever. It sounds more just like a poetic idiom. Like, why are we not just analyzing it like
we want to figure out what the idiom is, right? We don't want to just project all of our notions of crown onto it. We want to figure out what like Chazal meant or what the Rambam meant,
Okay, but it sounds like we're taking it in a very literal sense, I think. And I don't know if that's
where do you see that we're taking it in a literal sense?
Just the way that we're talking about it. Just the language that we're using to discuss it.
Okay, I don't see it.
I'll raise my hand again.
Okay, sure. I thought the whole thing that we were trying to do up until now is trying to figure out what the metaphor is. That's what I was trying to do. Yeah, Yosef?
Maybe I misunderstood.
Okay, Yosef?
It seems like the Kesser Shel Torah is like a certain type of knowledge. No, I mean, like, it says that she knows by the Arayos thing, or
yeah,
Isory Biya. it says like she knows the Keser Torah. So it seems like it's kind of like a certain type of knowledge of like maybe what Torah is or like how to engage in Torah, but
Yeah, I think
It
that's what
doesn't-
drew me. Sorry, go ahead.
like it doesn't seem like it's like some like achievement of like perfection. It seems more like it's just a type of knowledge.
That's interesting. A type of knowledge. I would agree that it is interesting. I agree that it is knowledge, but to me it does seem to imply a certain level of that knowledge. I'm just getting that vibe from I guess from having read the parak, but yeah, Chaim.
I want to look back on the.
Yeah,
Really say that.
right. She knows it. Right. That's another good point,
So
Joseph. Yeah.
it's not necessarily it means that it happens alone, like I said, not.
Right.
He just has no perfection.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, correct. Right. Meaning being familiar, being able to spot it or knowing it is different than having it, than wearing it. Yeah. We never looked at this inside. I just mentioned it last time, but the Bi Malachim Lochu, I just want in Mishle. Yeah. So, or maybe we did look at it inside. Yeah, at the very beginning of the parak, right? So just to show you the pasuk that Shlomo that he quoted from Shlomo HaMelech. Ani chachma shechanti arma v'das mezimos emtza. I am wisdom. I dwell in cunning, or cunning dwells in me. I think that's machlokes on how to translate it. V'das mezimos emtza, and knowledge of strategies I will find. Fear of Yiras Hashem sanos ra gea v'gan v'derach ra ufi tapuchos hanesi. Fear of Hashem is hatred of evil. Arrogance and haughtiness and an evil path and a duplicitous mouth I hate. Li etza v'tushia. To me belongs counsel and however you translate tushia, 6 ways to translate it. Ani bina li gvura. I am understanding and might belongs to me. Bi malachim yimlochu v'rosim yichochu kutzedek. Through me kings rule, and I always forget that every time I read it. I know I just read it like 30 minutes ago. Judges engrave righteousness. Bi sarim yasoru. Through me ministers rule. Unadivim kol shovtei aretz. And the nobles, all of the judges of the earth. Ani ehav ohavai ehav. Those who love me, I love. Umashacharai yimta'unani. And those who seek me out will find me. Osher v'chavoditi, hon atek v'tzedaka. Wealth and glory are with me. Great wealth and tzedakah. Tov piri micharutz. My fruit is better than fine gold, umipaz, and from purified gold. Utuvuasi mikesef nivchar, and my produce is better than refined silver, choice silver. V'orach tzedakah ahalech b'sof nesivos mishpat. On the path of righteousness I walk. On the ways of justice. Lahanchil ova yesh ve'otzosem amaleh. To bequeath to those who love me good stuff, yesh, and their storehouses I will fill. I think this is the last word in Shas, or the last pasuk in Shas. Yeah. So you see the way it's depicting Chachma here also is just the source of all good things and all abilities. So to me that also means more than just a category of knowledge. To respond to what Yosef was saying, it seems to be like a certain level of achievement in knowledge. That's the vibe I'm getting, but I guess we'll find out. Okay, let's try it. Lo yasich dato l'dvarim acherim. First step of getting the crown is to know what it is. That's what we're going to try to do. Lo yasich dato l'dvarim acherim. He should not distract his mind with other things. V'lo yasim al libo sheyikna Torah im ha'osher v'hakavod ke'echad. He should not set his heart on acquiring wealth and honor. Sorry, Torah with wealth and honor together. Yeah. Say again. It's a raya that's not kavod, correct? Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, you could say a bad answer by saying that it means another kind of kavod, but I don't think that's what it means. Yeah. Kach hu darka shel Torah. This is the way of Torah. Pas b'melech tochel v'al ha'aretz tishan v'chayah tzar tichye u'v'Torah ata amel. Bread with salt you shall eat. On the earth shall you sleep, and a life of suffering you shall live, and in Torah you shall toil. Now, I always thought that this was in Pirkei Avos. I know I must have been corrected many times. It's not. It's in the 6th parak of Pirkei Avos, which is not Pirkei Avos. That's Avos de Rabbi Nasan, which is why there's no Rambam on this. V'lo alacha kol hamalacha ligmor, and not upon you is all the work to complete. V'lo ata ben chorin libatel, and it is you are not free to desist from it. Aval im hirbesa Torah hirbesa sachar. Rather, if you have increased Torah, you've increased reward, or if you've accumulated Torah, you've accumulated reward. Well, sachar lefi atzar, and the reward is according to the suffering. Okay, so we said we made one original move yesterday, or one move yesterday, which was that this is like the Rambam said in Hakdama to פירוש המשניות, binyan haguf beheres hanefesh, ubinyan nefesh beheres haguf. That in order to build up your soul, you're going to need to make certain sacrifices in terms of physical luxury and success and enjoyment, and vice versa. If you want physical enjoyment and success and stuff, you're gonna have to cut down on the amount of learning and soul work that you do. That was the overarching thing. But the question is, in particular, what is it? What do we see from here? So, lo yasef dato l'dvarim achrim, I think is easy to understand, right? That you only have a certain limited amount of energy, and you can't involve yourself in everything. So if you try to get both, you're not going to get as much of either. That's just like a simple, like, what you invest your time and energy in, but I think it needs to be said, because there is a fantasy of when a person is seeking the Keser Torah at first, he is attracted by kavod, as proven by the fact that the Rambam says that that's like the penultimate level of or the last ultimate level of lo lishma, right? Is that you're attracted to kavod. So there is, so this further answers the question we said yesterday of how do you get from that level of lo lishma to lishma. So we said you maximize exposure to lishma, to lishma moments, to learning and learning in general, but you also are going to have to wean yourself off of kavod, which I think is an important thing, because as long as that kavod is there and enticing and you strive for it, then it's going to be it's going to take away from your investment in Torah, or it might even corrupt your actual learning. Like if you care more about kavod than truth, you're going to be not you're going to like not admit when you're wrong. You're going to like try to get the limelight. You're going to be other things that are going to like interfere. You're not going to see the truth because you want to be right. What are you going to say? Okay. Yeah. So that I think is plain shot. And again, this is also in Tihlim Perek Aleph. Oh man, this is going to be it's funny. There are certain things that are a nightmare for me, because I know as soon as Shir is over, I have to go and write down all the sources that I quoted. And like, this is one of the things like all over the place. I have to like remember all of them. The first two psukim of Tihlim say, Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach ba'atzas r'shaim u'b'derech hatam lomad u'b'moshav leitzim lo yashav. Happy is the man, or praiseworthy is the man, who doesn't walk in the path of the wicked and does not stand in the path of sinners and doesn't sit in the session of scorners. But only in the Torah of Hashem he is his desire or his delight, and in his Torah he thinks day and night. And one of the ideas we learned from there when we did Tehillim was that that basically your energy is going to be drawn in one of two directions: either the direction of the first pasuk, which according to the Meiri is material success, like kavod success, and like whatever moshav leitzim is, aggression or like wasting time, or you're involved in Torah, and to the extent that you're involved in one, then you're not going to be involved in the other. Okay, so I think that takes care of that, right? I think that's fairly straightforward. Okay. Now the question there is, there's two ways to read that. One is you must do this. The other is you must be willing even to do this. In other words, should you switch to the bread and salt diet and switch to the floor mattress and switch your life to the pain model, and that produces this perfection of Torah? Or is he saying that you should be willing to forego fancy foods and willing to sleep on the earth, et cetera, et cetera? You hear the question?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, right? Because you given what he said before, you could make the argument that there is a certain like if material successes and bodily phenomena are a distraction, you could see an argument to minimize those things, It's because you what? Oh yeah, right. I mean, I
don't think that's much more.
Right. Right. Yeah, the mashmalos of the phrasing is definitely that you should do it, right? The thing that makes me not want to say it, aside from my taiva for stuff beyond bread and salt, especially because I can't even eat bread, too many carbs, is that it seems like the type of asceticism that the Rambam is against in Hilchos Deos.
Right.
Yeah.
where if you were like her father, like his was like so was like I guess like screws or something. It was just like a place to put candles, and it was like as the generations going on, like as being like younger generations, the relatives like they'll have bigger and bigger and more people notice, but just saying the Torah's getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Oh, that's sad.
The Torah's getting bigger, the Torah's getting smaller.
Yeah. That is sad. Let's look and see if Rav Makbili has anything to say on Kachu Darcha Shel Torah, Ein Hakavana Shekach Darcha Shel Torah L'Chatchila. Okay, oh, it's fine. So he's taking a stance on this, right? On exactly my question. Sharia Torah Mafticha Lehetiv Es Tanai Ha'adam Kadesh Yilma Torah. The Torah promises to benefit a person on the condition that he learned Torah. That's in all of Hilchos Teshuvah. That's the brachos and klalos, that God will provide you with food and like and wealth and all this other stuff so that you can learn Torah. Right. So in other words, he's saying if this were really bad for your Torah, God wouldn't provide it for you. If it were intrinsically bad for your Torah, okay. Rather, it's talking about when you, even at times of lean times, you know. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Just those things.
Yeah.
So, well, the other hand, if you don't starve yourself, then Hashem's not providing the sachar.
Well, it's interesting. It doesn't say. I mean, yeah, the phrase says the reward is according to the suffering. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the only way to get the reward. It just means that the more suffering you have, then the more reward you're going to have. You know, like for example, you have the schar for learning in the base midrash and the schar for going to the base midrash. You know, schar halicha. You know, so if you walk further, then you get more schar halicha. But that's not the only type of schar available. You know, that's one branch of schar. So there is a certain type of schar that comes through suffering, but that's not the only type of schar. You know. The Rav Makbili's proof. Yeah. That you're right. Right. That's also true. Right. Yeah. I mean, that is the type of person who's getting hashgacha to the point where he's like wealthy and stuff is not going to have the standards of luxury that distract you from Torah. Right. That's a good point. I was thinking, I was going to bring an example, which this now explains is, if it was saying l'chatchila, you should try to do this. So that doesn't fit the history. We have many people, such as Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, who were like fantastically wealthy, who are great chachamim, so it's not, and who else? A lot of Rishonim, not a lot of Rishonim, but there were Rishonim who were very wealthy. Yeah, right. When his brother was around. Yeah, right. So like, in other words, if this was necessary in order to be get the Kesser Shel Torah, you would see all the greatest chachamim doing this or advocating for it. There were Nevi'im who were famously wealthy. In fact, that's a shita, right? Is the Gemara says you need to be wealthy in order to be a Navi, and the question is it literal or is it Ezehu Asher Hasamech B'chalka? Is it midos? Like the Rambam takes it as midos, but there are those who hold that you have to actually be wealthy for nevuah, not to get nevuah, but to be a navi. So I think the reason that they give is, one reason I've heard is because otherwise people won't respect you, which is definitely a reality, but the point is that like it's not like you can only achieve the highest levels of Torah if you impoverish yourself, and look, Kohanim and Leviim, I mean, they're not like fabulously wealthy, but like they are supported by the community and like, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Shlomo was really wealthy and he was the wisest person, Yeah. So I think the better shot, given the philosophy of Torah, I agree with you that it reads like you should do this, but I think given the philosophy of Torah, it must be that like you don't. Well, Rambam Bekius said it in kind of a shorthand way of b'shas shagam b'shas mitzuka. In other words, if a person is involved in learning and then he loses all of his money and he stops learning, that type of person will not get the Keser Shel Torah, but the type of person who is poor and is trying to make a living, but is still being kovei eating the Torah, that shows that he has a dedication to Torah. And you need to have that level of dedication, or a person who is, I'll tell you, okay, when I can speak about this is not bad about yeshiva, but we used to have an old building, okay, and the old building was very old and very decrepit and very disgusting in many ways, I remember when I was choosing which. Well, whatever. I won't say choosing yeshiva. Well, this is relevant. When I was choosing which yeshiva to go to, so the way that Rabbi Fox did it is he would never recommend which yeshiva to go to. He had a very detailed questionnaire that helped him to identify what was most important to you in a yeshiva. Anything from size to style of learning to food to location. And then he would narrow it down to a handful of choices and then walk through with you each one of them. So when he got to YBT, he was talking about the yeshiva. And then he was saying all the good stuff. And then we got to the building. He said, let me just say it's not the Taj Mahal, And I had grown up, in a back then I had grown up in a wealthy family, and was not sure how I would fare living in a dump, and it was a dump. It was literally I went up and it was literally, I could show you pictures. It was literally like a dump, in the the place. And I worried about this fact of, would I be able to have Yishuv Hadas? Would I be able to have peace of mind in living in a dump where literally when you walk down the stairs, your clothes get torn because there are nails sticking out, and it's disgusting. And it was not pleasant. Thankfully, this new building is very, very nice compared to the old building. But I worried about it. And sometimes you just don't know how you're going to handle it until you're there. And thankfully, I was able to handle it and be fine with it, which I didn't know about myself. But some people can't handle it. And so the reason why I bring the story in is it's not necessarily a moral condemnation. It might just be a practical matter that some people can't learn if they're worried about where their next meal is going to come from. And some people can, Yeah, it sounds like not. Sounds like, based on the way we're reading this Mishnah, you will not be able to get the Keser Shel Torah if you're doing that, Or I'll give you another example, all ours Tishan, sleep on the ground, right? So one of my chavrusas just had a kid a month, 2 months ago, and he's in that stage where he's getting zero sleep because the kid's waking up every couple hours, and his life is suffering in terms, his ability to live is suffering because you need sleep. And there are people who can be physiologically bediavad and will still forge ahead and do the things that they value, knowing that they're not going to get as much of a result, but they'll still do it. And then people are like, oh, I got a bad sleep, I can't learn today, that's and you can't be that and still get Torah. Yeah, Oren?
Could it be like an Amuna kind of thing? You need to be willing to roll with the punches in order to be a proper Talmud Chacham or to have the Keter Torah, Shel Torah.
Roll with the punches in what sense? Say again.
In the sense that, like you said, some people can't learn if they don't know where the next meal is coming from. Meaning that you need to be able to learn even when you don't know. Yeah. What's going to happen.
That's a good question. I feel like there are statements of Chazal that express that idea. For example, I think the Midrash about, was it Shimon Bar Yochai and his son who were hiding in the cave for a long time, and they were being fed with the carobs, and the Romans could come in any minute, So I think that expresses this idea of living in danger and subsisting off of food that you don't know. And God is providing for you. I don't know if this eat bread with salt, to me, that emphasizes a plainness and a lack of luxury, not a not knowing where your support's going to come from. In other words, I think you're right in the idea, and I think there are other statements of Chazal that say that. I just don't think that this is that. I can't prove it. That's just my intuition. I'm going to give you another example of V'chai Tsar Tichya. Okay, so one of the formative experiences I had in my first year in yeshiva, while I was thinking about this, my mind went there, is Moshe Festel gave a Bekius shir, and it was one of the best, it was an amazing Bekius shir. I mean, it was very in-depth, but it was, it was called Bekius. And then one day, and there were only, I think there were 2 of us in the shir. What was it? Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, honestly, he gets credit for this. Like, this is what he taught me the term Bekiyun. I wouldn't have had the excuse of calling it that. So one day I was sick, and I think I was pretty sick. I think I had a fever, and suddenly I'm in bed on the 3rd floor, like languishing in bed. And like, he just barges in and he's like, "Why aren't you in shir?" And I was like, "I'm sick with a fever." And he's like, "So, like, you're awake?" And it was one of those like this is like one of the diehard old school, like, yeah, like, fine, you're sick. So like learn, like, are you in a coma? No. Like, are you unconscious? No. Like, are you like vomiting in the bathroom to the point where you can't learn? No. So like, you can learn, and I think that's the type of chayet sa'ar that there's, there's the term in halakha, an istinus, right? An istinus is someone who is like extremely sensitive to like matters of like dirt or dust or like discomfort, like we say that like on Tisha B'Av, when it's usher to wash, then it's usher to wash unless you're in istinus, and then you can wash. I remember Josh Licht, who thought he was an istinus, asking the shaila and getting the psak that he's not an istinus, and Josh was like, "Well, if I'm not an istinus, I would like to if I ever met a guy who was an istinus, I'd like to shake his hand if he'd let me," but like, so this is like an istinus in terms of comfort and ability to learn. And if you're going to fall apart and not learn because conditions aren't perfect, then you're not going to get the Kesser Torah. You need to be able to like forge on, even if you can't get the Kesser Torah. The more I talk about this, the more I'm talking myself into this shot. I think like in other words, it's not just the words and the values of Torah, but I do think that like in this sense, lahavdil, it's no different than if you want to become like an Olympic athlete, or if you want to become like a musician, like or a starving artist, like you need to be willing to undergo like dire situations and like pain and stuff like that in order to do it. And if you don't have that commitment, you're just not going to get that far. Yeah, Oren.
Is this a little side point? Is this at all related to having salt with the bread on Shabbat?
So okay, it is related indirectly, which is that the bread back then was apparently not edible unless you had salt. So salt was the minimal amount. Our bread is edible without salt. So there are those who say that the reason why we put salt on our bread when we make hamotzi has nothing to do with the reason why the Gemara said it, because their bread was actually inedible, and has to do with other reasons. But the idea there is like the minimal amount of edible food, or the minimal you need to do to the food to be able to eat it. That's what it's trying to say. So it's indirectly related, yeah. Okay. What about v'lo alacha kol hamalacha ligmor v'lo ata ben chorin libatel? So that is a Mishnah in Avos. Let's just read the Mishnah in whole and then look at the Rambam on that and see if we can see anything there. So first we've got to find the Mishnah. I'm going to Mechon Mamre so that I could show the entire thing and then just find on page ligmor. All right, so it's the last one in Perek Beis, if you want to get the Pirush Mishnayos there. And I'm going to display it on the screen, but I'm not going to use the one on the screen for this. The last Mishnah in Perek Beis. Is there a Rambam on there? Is going to be the question. Oh, there's a very short Rambam. All right, well, we'll see what the Rambam says. Okay, so this is going to be on page Reish Pei. Mishnah Yud Tes in the Rambam's numbering. And I'm going to read again. I'm reading from the Rambam's, not from the one on Al HaTorah. Hu haya omer lo alecha kol hamalacha ligmor. Not all of the work is upon you to complete. V'lo ata ben chorin libatel, but you are not free to abstain from it. Aval im ata lamadta Torah harbe nosin lo sachar harbe. But rather, if you've learned a lot of Torah, they will give you a lot of reward. V'ne'eman hu ba'al malachtecha sheyeshalem lecha schar pulasacha. And your employer, that's with a capital E, is trustworthy to pay you your reward for your activity. V'da shematan schar shel tzadikim la'asi level. You should know that the reward for tzadikim is in the world to come. So it's not going to be in this world. Very short Rambam. All the Rambam says here, yotes klomar l'olam haba, means olam haba, la'asi level. It doesn't mean in the future in olam hazeh. Ukvar dibarnu b'inyan ha'olam haba b'asir desanhedrin b'mesher roy lahaskir kfi kotzer pirseh. Okay, fine, that doesn't help us at all, right? So we're on our own. Right. So what of that? The Ram didn't quote the whole thing in our thing. He just says, what do you say? Not all the work is upon you to complete, nor are you free to desist from it. I mean, the first thing I think of here is like that is an excuse that people do use, which is like, I can't possibly complete all of this. So what's the point? You know? And the idiotic thing about that is no one would say in business, well, I can't make all the money in the world, so why should I try to make any money? Like in any real good, you wouldn't say that, you know? So it's clearly just a rationalization, you know? Like it's a rationalization that stems from ego of I need to be the one to finish it, you know? And if I can't finish it, then, you know, I'll say the first example of this I saw, this is an extreme example, and it's kind of unfair to use this example, but I'm gonna use it because it's a good illustration. The first week I ever taught was in Hafter. And I had an 11th grade honors girls Chumash class. And there was a student who was in the class. She got a bad grade on one assignment, which was a B, and she transferred out to grade level. And I asked the principal why she transferred out, and she said, oh, this student only cares about her grades. And like, if she can't get perfect grades, then she doesn't want to be involved, you know, like, that was the ultimate. Now I know grades are like that in general, but that's the ultimate using I can't complete it as an excuse to just not do it. You know, like if I can't get everything, I'm not going to get anything, you know. But then, you know, so the question is v'lo ata ben chorin libatel, but you're not free to desist from it. Is that just the flip side of that coin, or is that a separate like excuse or havamina?
I guess enough thing of a bad controversial for not engaging enough with my father's side of the family.
Sorry, say again.
Bad internal rationalizations I have for not engaging enough in my father's.
Oh yeah. Isn't it weird also? I don't know if this is just an idiom I'm not familiar with. When I say ben chorin, what other word do you associate to as the pair? Bnei chorin. Yeah, right. Avadim, right? I think ben chorin is what you call a free man, you know? So it is weird that it uses the word ben chorin in contrast to someone who's working. It could have just said v'lo alecha kol malacha ligmor, v'lo ata, you know, rashai libatal mimena, but you are not a free man to abstain from it. I don't think we call unemployed people bnei chorin. I think we call non-slaves bnei chorin, you know. So I don't know if that's significant here. Let's just read Rav Bili now. Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's if it said that, then I'd be fine with it. No, if it said that, I'd be fine with it. I'm only picking on the phrase ben chorin, and there are lots of other ways that it would have said it. You know, ve'inata rasha libatal, ve'inata pater, you know, milisasik bator, you know, like ben chorin I associate specifically with avdus, but that could just be my association. I don't think we call people who are working. That's true, right? So then why doesn't it use the Evid Mashal in the first part? You know, it's not a major question. It's just something that strikes me as funny. Yeah, Oren. Oh. Evid and Malacha are not synonymous. I mean, Malacha is. Yeah. No, I wouldn't. Yeah. All right. We can talk about that later. Yeah, Oren.
It said that you are not bnei chorin. maybe that you can't
Yeah.
like abstain from work. Well, okay, so aren't we supposed to be like Eved Ovdei Hashem, like
Right.
servants of God? So maybe it's a reference
Yeah.
to that.
So I don't know. Is that the similar move that you're trying to say? Yeah.
I thought it doesn't mean that in the first half, there is no bring them like the evidence.
Right. But see, that's the thing is the whole analogy is an employer-employee analogy, like it even calls God the employer, I just think it's weird to say Ben Chorin because Ben Chorin is a term for masters and slaves, and that's not the term he's using. But again, that's not the biggest question. It bothers me. Yeah, Yosef?
Maybe it's like it frees up your energy, like your b'nei chor in terms of your energy, because like if you're too engaged in the work, you're not going to be able to, like, even if you are, okay, I work a 9 to 5 job, I get home and then I go and learn, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe you won't be able to really learn to the same extent if you didn't have that job because just psychologically you're still in that area, right, of work, and that's still just a stress on you.
Interesting. So the sequencing then, according to that, would say that don't think that you have to complete Torah. So I was saying don't think you have to complete Torah because then you're going to say, well, that's impossible, and then you're going to stop, and then you're not ben chorin libatel. So why does the person need to be told that according to you? Like, what's the havamina, and what is this telling you?
Of why you need to say kol melacha ligmor?
No, v'lo ata ben chorin libatel.
Like, why you're asking? Why is the response to kol melacha ligmor?
Well, I'm asking, is that just part of the first clause of lo alecha kol melacha ligmor, or is this a separate havamina?
I think it's separate. I think it's separate.
So then, how would you read the havamina and then this as the maskana for just the second part?
Well, I'm a little bit confused what you mean.
So in other words, lo alecha kol melacha ligmor. The havamina of that is all the malacha is upon me to complete. And kamash malan, it's not, right? So here, lo ata ben chorin libatel. So the havamina is, I am a ben chorin and I don't have to do it. And kamash malan, you're not a ben chorin. So what is the havamina of I am free to abstain from it? And how is this correct refuting that havamina?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the idea you said in abstract. I just don't see how it plays out. All right, so let's think about this and then let it roll around over the weekend and then come back to it for just trying to get the Kesser Shel Torah here. That's all we're trying to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. So we'll let you know. Yeah.
See the new faces. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, the new faces. Here, I'll. There you go.